And we just need to continue keeping these 4 wash plants running because we need to do at least 400 ounces a week to hit our goal.
453 ounces. That's what Parker Schnabel's crew washed this week. Over $1.5 million of Yukon gold stacked on one table. And Parker can't quite believe what he's looking at. Because last week, the same ground, the same 4 wash plants, and the same crew handed him more. Somewhere between Monday and Friday, gold went missing, and it didn't vanish in the sluice. Here's the part nobody at that table can explain away. Every decision made this week was the right one. Every fault caught, every repair fast. So, where did it go? 4 plants, 1 number.
Yeah, I mean, we ran 24 hours and we're running quite a bit of yardage, so we'd want to see at least 30 ounces to make this ground worthwhile. Yeah, I'm not really seeing any gold in here.
So here is the question worth sitting with, because the answer is not the one you expect. If nobody made a mistake, where did the gold go? Parker's target is 10,000 ounces, which is not a slogan, but a division problem. Split it across the weeks he has left, and it produces the only figure that governs anything on this operation. 400 ounces a week, every week, with no catching up later. Put a dollar sign on it, and the stakes get easier to feel. Gold is running at roughly $3,500 an ounce this season, which makes the season target around $35 million in raw gold, and the weekly minimum about $1.4 million. That is what 400 ounces actually means. That is what a slow Tuesday costs.
Brennan's pretty worked up. You know, he's feeling pretty empowered. We'll see how this all goes.
He is running 4 wash plants to do it, 3 of them turning ground on Dominion, and everyone has to keep eating dirt from first light to last, or the arithmetic collapses. Over $20 million in gold has already gone to the bank this season. On almost any other operation, that number ends the year in celebration. Here, it barely earns a nod, because 20 million does not get you to 35. The pressure has already redistributed the crew. The Golden Mile carries the heaviest expectation right now. So Mitch has been pulled up there. One set of experienced hands moved off one problem and dropped onto a bigger one. It is the right call. It also leaves Kenneth Stewart's ground in the hands of one man. The man left holding pit 2. Brennan is not standing still for a second. He is down in pit 2, stripping toward pay with the urgency of somebody who knows exactly what is riding on the cut he is opening. Get to the pay layer, get the cut ready, keep the dirt flowing. No version of that job involves waiting for conditions to improve. He says it plainly. Everything feels like it is sitting on his shoulders, and underneath that is a second feeling that never lifts, the sense of always being behind. Not because of a mistake, because the target is built that way. 400 ounces a week means that at any moment there is a theoretical version of the week running further ahead than the real one, and no effort ever closes the distance. You just keep pace with a number that never gets tired. Then he reaches for his gold pan, and that is the tell. A man who grabs a pan mid-strip believes he is close. He wants color in the bottom of it, confirmation that the pay layer is right under the bucket, because close to pay is close to loads, and loads are the only currency this operation trades in. Then the radio goes, in the exact tone every mining crew recognizes. The one that means somebody is about to tell you something you cannot fix by working harder. The cost of a green crew.
With this truck being down, it's definitely going to put a strain on the production over here.
The complication nobody sees on the weigh-in table. Brennan is not doing this with a seasoned crew. He is doing it green. New operators learning the machines while those machines are already in production, learning the ground while it is already being torn open, and learning the sequence of a cut that is already behind. Training costs in ways that never appear as a line item. A new operator takes longer on every cycle, more time positioning, more time loading, more hesitation on the approach. Multiply a handful of seconds across hundreds of cycles a day, and you have lost loads without a single thing going wrong. Machines wear harder too, because inexperience is rough on hydraulics, tires, and driveline, and the pit floor takes a beating from passes a veteran would not have needed. Then there is the cost to Brennan himself. Every decision gets double-checked, every load line watched. He cannot set a task down and trust it is handled the way he would handle it. So he runs his own machine and supervises everyone else's at once, never fully doing either. That is the real tax on a green crew. It is not the mistakes they make. It is the attention they take from the one person who cannot afford to be distracted. And yet, stopping to train them properly would cost more, because pulling operators off production is production nobody is doing. So, He trains as he goes, which is the expensive option and the cheap one at once, and absorbs the difference personally. That is the condition he is working in when the radio call comes. A hole that shouldn't be there.
There's no way Parker's gonna let us turn this wash plant off for any length of time, so probably just pop those screens out, weld her up the best you can.
A rock truck is down, a tire flat. In a week where 4 plants must run and $1.4 million in gold has to come off the table, a truck sitting still is not an inconvenience. It is a hole punched through the schedule. Jenko gets the call, and his job is simple to describe and unforgiving in practice. Get the wheel off, the new one on, and the truck back into the cycle before the delay compounds. But he does not treat it as a routine swap, and that is the judgment call that matters. He looks at the wound before he fixes it, because the puncture does not add up. Placer pits eat tires, rock rips rubber. That is the cost of running heavy equipment across broken stone. But this hole is wrong for that story, and Jenko says so. He does not believe rock did it. That observation changes the complexion of the problem. A rock puncture is chance. You curse, swap the tire, carry on. A puncture that rock did not cause means something is lying in the haul road that has no business being there. A bolt, a shard of steel, something shed off a machine and driven over since. And if it is still in the path the trucks run every few minutes, the tire that just went down will not be the last. So Jenko walks the road, checking the ground the trucks drive, because the only thing worse than losing one truck is losing a second to the same object for the same reason. On an ordinary week, that is diligence. This week, it is damage control. And it is time nobody has. How one truck becomes a week. Here is what an idle rock truck does, because the damage never stays with the machine that stopped. It starts at the plant. A wash plant is sized to be fed at a certain rate, and when the fleet drops by 1, the feed rate drops with it. The plant does not stop. It runs underfed, chewing less dirt per hour while burning the same fuel, where in crew hours it would burn running flat out. That is the most expensive way to run a wash plant, fully staffed and half loaded. Then it moves to the cut. Every load that does not leave pit 2 is overburdened still sitting there, so the pay layer stays buried longer and the next cut opens late. Delay in a placer operation does not sit still. It slides forward onto the following week, and that week already has a 400-ounce target of its own. Then it reaches the crew, which is the part that hurts. The response to losing a truck is to push the remaining ones harder. Faster cycles, tighter turns, less margin on every pass. That is exactly the condition under which equipment gets damaged and mistakes get made. And it is being applied to operators still learning. So, one flat tire quietly raises the odds of the next failure across the whole pit. You cannot work harder than a flat tire. You can only run hotter around it and hope nothing else gives. 12 loads that never moved. Brennan puts a number on it, and it is brutal in its simplicity. 10 to 12 loads. That is what he reckons he could have moved in an hour with that truck, and those loads are not delayed. They are gone because hours in a Yukon season are not refundable, and the ground does not offer to be dug twice. He does not call it frustrating. He calls it devastating, and coming from him, that word is doing real work. He is trying to push enough through to start cut 2, and the plan does not care that the fleet just shrank. So he leans harder into the ground he has, with the machines he has, running a smaller fleet at a faster pace. If you want to see exactly what this hour costs when the gold hits the table, subscribe now. Jenko gets the truck back, fresh rubber, torqued up, ready to collect. And Brennan takes it with genuine gratitude, because in an operation this size, the difference between a bad day and a lost day is usually one mechanic who moved fast. But a fixed truck does not return the hour. The loads that did not move are still loads that did not move, and they are already baked into a weigh-in nobody has seen yet. And somewhere else, on this operation, a second machine has been failing quietly for days. The belt that wouldn't stay straight. It is the feeder on Roxanne, and it has been niggling for days the way small mechanical faults do. Never bad enough to justify stopping, never good enough to forget. The belt walks, drifting side to side instead of tracking straight, and every time it drifts, the edge catches. The mechanics are worth understanding because they explain why this is a countdown rather than a nuisance. A conveyor belt stretches over time, constant tension, constant load, thousands of hours of rock riding across it, and the rubber lengthens. A stretched belt is a loose belt, and a loose belt has nothing holding it centered on its rollers, so it wanders. Far enough, and its edge rides into the frame and grinds against steel. That grinding is what frays it. An afraid belt does not fail politely. A slipping belt would be a mercy. It would lose grip and stop moving dirt. A frayed belt keeps working while it destroys itself. The damaged edge loses strength, the fray widens with every pass, and eventually the weakened section tears under load. At that point, there is no adjustment left to make. There is a full belt replacement in the field in the middle of the season, on one of the 4 plants that cannot afford to stop. Days of work, not hours, on an operation counting its remaining weeks in single digits. So when the belt walks again, the call is made to shut her down. Shutting a plant voluntarily, with the season total already behind schedule, means choosing a certain loss now over a probable disaster later. Every instinct in a week like this says, keep feeding and deal with it after the weigh-in. Every piece of experience says later is when it costs a week instead of an afternoon. There is a particular anger reserved for a machine that will not stay fixed, and this feeder has earned all of it. A square of steel. Bill and Justin take it on, and their judgment is why this stays an afternoon instead of a week. The obvious answer to a worn belt is a new belt. They refuse it because the right fix here is not the one that solves the problem best in theory. It is the one that gets the plant washing today. Their read is that the belt does not need replacing, it needs tension. Pull it tight and it tracks straight, and the edges stop catching. So the repair becomes a geometry problem instead of a parts problem. Their solution is a bush fix in the best sense. They run the tail pulley back and install spacers between the pulley and the bearing. Square tube, cut on site to fit that exact gap. That extra distance lengthens the belt path just enough to take up the slack the rubber has lost. No parts order, no waiting on a delivery to a claim hundreds of miles from anywhere. Justin's confidence when it goes together is quiet and earned. He reckons it will work out good, which is the read of somebody who knows what a properly tensioned belt sounds like coming back up to speed. The call goes out to start the conveyor and get back to sluicing. The belt tracks, the plant runs. But one detail in this repair says more about the state of this operation than any number on a scale. The boss in the loader. Parker is feeding the wash plant himself. The crew notices because they do not see this. The boss is in the loader with his hands on the controls, and by his own admission, it might be the first time all year he has fed a wash plant. That is the clearest measure of what 4 plants has done to this operation. Parker came up doing exactly this work. The loader is where he learned the business. But $20 million of gold this season did not come from him running a bucket. It came from him holding 4 operations, 4 crews, and 4 sets of problems in balance against one number. He is not the most valuable man in that seat, which is why him ending up in it matters. He is not there for nostalgia. He is there because nobody else was free. Mitch is at the Golden Mile. Brennan is buried in Pit 2 with a green crew in a truck just back from the dead. Bill and Justin are elbow deep in a feeder, spread 4 ways. An operation this size runs out of spare people long before it runs out of work, and the boss becomes the last piece of slack in the system. His own read is telling. They have just lost a pretty big chunk of time, and losing time like this is rare for them. That is not modesty. This crew does not. Sit still, so when hours go missing, they register. Then he says the thing the whole week has been circling. He is really hoping it does not become a total show around here, with 4 plants running. That is the fear stated out loud, and it is the correct one. 4 plants is not 4 times the gold. It is 4 times the tires, the belts, the feeders, and the chances that something small breaks at exactly the wrong hour with nobody spare to catch it. Scale gives you production. It also gives failure 4 times the surface area to work with. Right now, it is holding. The belt is tight, the truck is on fresh rubber, the dirt is flowing. But the week has already been washed. All that is left is to find out what it says. The first number on the table. The weigh-in begins, and the count builds in the rhythm these tables always find: 15, 30, 70, 90. Then the last of it goes on, and the scale settles: 100.35 ounces, worth over $350,000. On almost any other operation, that is a triumphant week, a season-making pile of gold on a table in the Yukon. Here it lands with a shrug because it is down on last week and everybody already knows why. There was downtime. The number makes sense. That phrase is the most revealing thing said all week. It makes sense. The gold on that table is a direct readout of the hours the machines actually ran, and take the hours away and the pile shrinks in exact proportion. A wash plant is an honest machine. It gives you exactly what you fed it. So, the hope gets pinned to next week. A full week of running, and the numbers should climb back. It is a reasonable hope. It also has to survive 4 plants, 4 crews, and whatever the ground has planned next. 1 pile down, 3 to go, and nobody at that table yet knows how close this week will land to the last one. The switcheroo that wasn't. Next comes the Dominion Bridge cut, and the counting starts again. 20, 40, 60, 80, then the settle. 105.2 ounces, worth over $360,000. 2 piles down, close enough in size that the shape of the week is becoming visible. This is where somebody voices what everyone quietly wants when the numbers come in soft. The hope that it is a setup, that the modest piles are a switcheroo, a slow build before somebody walks in with a monster. The response is dry and immediate. To pull that off, you would need 800 ounces. 800, roughly $2.8 million in a single week, is so far beyond anything on this table that saying it out loud kills the fantasy on contact. That is the moment the room stops hoping and starts calculating. With 2 plants weighed, the requirement becomes exact. Lucifer and Big Red now have to deliver a combined 300 ounces to beat last week's total. Not a good result. 300, or the week goes backwards. 2 of those plants are at the Golden Mile. Everything that happened in Pit 2 and to that belt is about to resolve into a single figure. 866,000. Then the Golden Mile count starts, and it does not creep. 40, 80, 100, 140, 160, 200. It climbs in confident steps, sails past where both earlier piles finished, and stops at 247.45 ounces, $866,000 from 1 cut. Why the Golden Mile pays. That number explains every staffing decision Parker made this week. More than double either of the other piles, and on its own, worth more than both combined. That is ground running at a grade the rest of the operation cannot match. When 1 cut pays like that, it stops being one of 4 priorities and becomes the one that carries the season. Which is why Mitch got pulled up there. Sending an experienced hand to the Golden Mile is arithmetic, not favoritism. An hour lost on that ground costs multiples of an hour lost anywhere else. So the ground that pays best gets the people most likely to keep it running. Every other crew got thinner so that one did not, and it worked. The Golden Mile delivered the biggest pile of the week. But the requirement was 300 combined, and 247.45 is not 300. 453. The week comes down to subtraction, and everybody at the table can do it. Last week, 505 ounces, roughly $1.77 million. This week, 453.0, or about $1.58 million, roughly 50 ounces down, $175,000 of gold, gone from a week in which nobody did anything wrong. And the explanation is not geological. The pay did not run thin. It is said flatly at the table, Roxanne was broken. A belt that stretched, walked, frayed, and finally forced a shutdown. A machine taken offline deliberately and correctly, because the alternative was worse. The price of that correct decision, measured in the only unit that counts up here, is most of 50 ounces. Add the flat tire, and the 10 or 12 loads that never left Pit 2. Add the hours Brennan worked a truck short while carrying a green crew. Add the chunk of time Parker called rare, the one that put him in a loader for the first time all year. Individually, everyone was survivable. Together, they are 50 ounces. Then the season total goes up. 6,038.9 ounces, comfortably north of $21 million, an extraordinary number, and measured against 10,000, one with a great deal of work still standing behind it. What's left to find? Do the remaining arithmetic and the picture sharpens. 10,000 minus 6,038.9 leaves roughly 3,961 ounces still in the ground, close to $14 million in gold that has not been washed yet. Against a 400-ounce week, that is nearly 10 more full weeks at the minimum rate. And Yukon seasons do not hand out 10 more weeks in the back half. Which means 400 was never really the target. It was the floor. Anything near it keeps the goal technically alive while quietly making the remaining weeks harder, because every ounce not found this week is added to the next one's requirement. That is what makes this result more dangerous than it looks. 453 clears the weekly minimum, the small mercy buried in it. But it does not build the buffer, and the buffer is what gets you to 10,000. Big weeks are not luxuries in this plan. They are the only way to absorb the weeks that break. So, run the scenario nobody at that table wants to say out loud. Another week loses 50 ounces to a belt or a tire, the shortfall doubles, and the requirement for everything left creeps past 450, then past 500. Each failure makes the next week's target harder, which makes the next failure more expensive, which is how a season stops being about mining and becomes attrition. Two ways out: a run of clean weeks with all 4 plants healthy, or more golden mile. What 453 actually costs. Here is what makes 453 such a strange number to sit with. Nobody did anything wrong, and that is the part that stings. Jenko changed the tire fast and checked the road for whatever punctured it. Bill and Justin diagnosed a stretched belt and fixed it with square tube instead of losing days to a replacement. Brennan pushed a green crew toward pay without breaking anyone or anything. Parker climbed into a loader rather than let a plant sit idle. Every decision was the right one, made fast by people who knew precisely what they were doing. And the week still came up 50 ounces short. That is the honest lesson of running 4 wash plants at once. Scale does not protect an operation, it exposes one. More plants means more hours available and more ways to lose them. And hours are what ounces are made from. Everything that broke this week has been fixed. The only thing that cannot be repaired is the time, which is why this number teaches Parker more than a big one would have. A 500-ounce week tells him the plan works. A 453-ounce week tells him what a single bad afternoon costs. And with $14 million still standing between this crew and 10,000 ounces, that is the more valuable thing to know. So tell me in the comments, was pulling Roxanne offline the right call, or should they have run her until she tore and dealt with it after the weigh-in? And go watch the Golden Mile breakdown next, because 247 ounces from one cut is not luck.